So yeah, welcome. And thanks again for being here, and I'll pass it over to Melissa. So you,
Great. Should I share my screen now?
yeah, go for it. Let's get into those slides.
Okay. Let's see. So, hey everybody, thanks so much for joining. I'm Melissa, as Travis mentioned, from Cousteau. I started officially career coaching. I was hired by the Muse last year after I started remote year actually, but I've been doing things in the realm of career coaching since I was in college as part of a business frat, co-ed business frat, and I worked as a college admissions counselor for the last startup that I worked at. So this strategy that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is something that I've used across the board in every different industry that I've worked in, from entertainment in Korea to teaching English to working in tech to startups, all of that. And it works across the board. So let's go ahead and get into it.
If you didn't catch that little fact, Melissa was almost like a K-pop star at some point in her earlier life. But you feel free to ask questions about that during the Q&A part.
Okay, cool. So today what's going to be dropping is 5 steps to making yourself stand out. I narrowed it down to 5 steps to make it really easy and digestible for you guys. I was in the shower one day when I was trying to think of how to present this, and I was like, oh, you know what? I can break it down into two categories. You have fit and you have excellence. And so putting those two together, I came up with the iron method. So that's an easy little way for you guys to remember the strategy that I'm going to be sharing with you. That's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. Another thing is how to communicate what you bring to the table in a powerful way with impact, and where most people go wrong when marketing themselves, whether that's to a potential client, potential employer, maybe a potential date, I don't know, like whatever you guys are up to. Wherever there's a decision maker, this matters. Why I'm dropping it, I've had experience working with hundreds of students when I was at the college admissions counseling startup. And the clients that I worked with while using this strategy have gotten accepted into the most selective schools in the world. I mean, one kid got accepted into NYU Abu Dhabi, and he didn't have a 4.0 GPA. He wasn't like the valedictorian of his school or anything. It was just that we were able to convey what he had done and what he brought to the table in a very powerful way. I was also a career coach at the Muse. As I mentioned, I got hired last year while on remote year, and I helped hundreds of people with their resumes and with their interviewing to get the jobs that they really wanted to get. And technically, I've been underqualified for every job that I've ever gotten, all of the freelance gigs I've gotten. When I say underqualified, I don't mean that I didn't have the skills. I just mean that technically on paper, I didn't have like 5-10 years of experience in a particular industry, or I never actually had that title before. I was able to use the skills that I had in the past for any contribution that I had made and translate that in a way that was powerful and showed impact, to where I could prove that I could do the same for the position that I was going out for. So I want you guys to think about your own experiences of a time when you had to go up for something where you were competing against others. And get like that opportunity in your mind, because I want this to be real for you. Now, thinking of the opportunity, was it hard to convince that person to give you the gig or give you the job or give you the opportunity? You guys can answer in the little chat box if you'd like. I like this to be interactive. I'm sad that I can't like talk to you guys.
You can talk to me.
Yeah, Travis, give me an opportunity where you had to compete against others to get chosen for something.
To get a cool job with remote year as a program leader.
Okay, cool. And you obviously got the job, but think of a time when you didn't get the job. Is there a time when you didn't get an opportunity?
Like the first thing that came to mind is I got waitlisted at my first college choice when I was coming out of high school.
Okay, and so you got waitlisted, but there are that was a lot of it. But there were so many people that got accepted on the first round, right?
Yeah.
And so when you think about what you put on your application versus what they did, it doesn't mean that they were any better than you or better qualified. It just meant that the way that you presented yourself was different, and whatever they said was more powerful than what you said, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is a way for you to always communicate about yourself in a very powerful way so that you're always going to be the obvious choice. And I broke it down, as I mentioned, into fit and excellence. Whenever it comes to making yourself stand out, you have to communicate fit and excellence. And an easy way to remember that is iron is strong. And the more fit and excellence you're able to communicate, the stronger your chances to get chosen are. So to break down fit, you can break it down into 2 steps. I'd like to introduce a girl named Lisa. And Lisa is going up for a customer support position at a tech company. And she is competing against a bunch of other people for this one role. So the first step that she takes in presenting her fit, because obviously she has to communicate that she can do the job, is understanding the company's goals. When it comes to understanding the company's goals, she knows based on the job description that she needs to be able to solve problems and she needs to be able to communicate clearly. But these are also things that everyone else that's going to be applying for this role can also gain from that job description, and they're probably going to have on their resume. So the next step is to identify the standard. She needs to prove to this company in very basic terms that she's able to perform the job duties that are required. So for her particular situation, she has, as one of her lines of detail in her resume, responded to customer questions in a personable and professional way. I mean, that's pretty standard, right? Like, that's a common entry form or an entry for a customer support role. The problem is, once she's communicated fit, which is where most people stop with their resume, it's not enough to make herself stand out because everyone else has probably also said the same or similar things from their past job experiences also on their resume. Even if they're talking about themselves in the interview, they're always going to say the similar things. I mean, if you're going for a customer support position, chances are you've done something similar in the past, right? So then how does she make herself stand out? This brings us to the second part of the iron method, the E, which is excellence. And so step 3, which falls under excellence, is to communicate how are you different or better. So when Lisa had her entry initially in her resume, to communicate how she was different or better, she added the detail that she analyzed client needs and developed solutions. And she was able to pull this from looking at what made her different or better from what she did in her previous customer support roles, or even if it wasn't a customer support role, any similar position where she had to help people. And she realized that analyzing client needs and developing solutions was something she did better. The fourth step is to connect why that matters. So Lisa added that she increased client retention by doing those other things. And the reason why this part is so crucial is because all companies are different, right? And all positions may vary. And so for her to connect with this company and connect with this opportunity, she needs to show how what she did is going to connect with the company's goals. And increasing client retention is something that contributes to that company's overall goals. And the last step is to add context. So she added by 60%. Now the importance of adding context is to show how great your impact was or how small your impact was. If she left it at increased client retention by analyzing client needs, et cetera, we wouldn't know how much impact she really created. Like, did she increase one client? Did she increase the client retention by 10 people? Or did she increase it by 60%? Or does she have a hard number that she can give? Anytime that you can quantify what you did or qualify that impact, that adds context to how big or small your impact was, you want to add that when you communicate about what you did.
It also makes it seem like real, for sure, too. Like it doesn't feel like nearly sort of like wishy-washy when you put like a statistic on it or like a number. It feels real.
Right, exactly. And that's a great point, Travis, because if you just throw out a quality that you did or a quality that you have or a skill that you have, it is hard to justify that, and it could be more subjective, but adding this context is really going to make what you did very objective, and it's going to be hard to prove wrong. So looking at these before and afters, who would you guys choose?
Lisa.
Who would you choose, Travis?
Lisa sounds great. I go.
Well, I mean, between the first and the second one, you can see how the second one, after going through those 5 steps, really adds a lot of robustness to this entry. And it gives you more specific details about what she did, and it really qualifies what she can do for your company. So if I'm the hiring person and I see her entry and it says that she increased client retention by 60%, that's going to catch my eye. And that's going to make me think, oh, well, if she did it for that company, she can do it for my company. I want that. I want that impact. And that's what's going to make me choose the second one. Surprise! This is actually an entry that I had on my resume to get the job that I currently have at About.me. Initially, when I was applying for positions way back when, I would have something like the first entry. But then as the years developed and, I learned the strategy and I continued to evolve it, I ended up with a second entry, put that on my resume, and it's what got me hired. Eventually, that job evolved into a product marketing manager position, which is what I have now. But it started with this customer support role.
This is like the usual suspects of knowledge drops. You're like Kaiser Sosaing everybody right now.
I'm what?
It's an obscure movie reference, but I'm sure somebody watching got
it. Okay. All right. So just to recap, in order to make yourself stand out, you want to make sure that you have fit and excellence. And there are 5 steps that fall under those 2 categories. The stronger the fit and excellence you communicate, the stronger the chance you have at getting the position or the opportunity. Do's, keys to success. Hindsight is 20/20. So it's really important that you guys look back at what you've done in the past and analyze your impact beyond your responsibility. A lot of the times when people ask, so what do you do for this company? Typically you'll say something like, oh, I don't know, make email campaigns, or I create email campaigns. And that's great, but 500 million other people can also say that. And so it's what have you done with that particular responsibility that was above and beyond, whether that's adding a voice to it or, I don't know, creating a system that made creating those emails a lot more efficient. And, whatever it is that you brought to the table that made that particular responsibility or contribution better, you want to make sure that you include that in your communication of what you've done. 2, communicate using the IRON method. Establish your fit first, because you want to make sure that the company knows you're able to do the job, and that puts you and everyone else at a level playing field. And then present your excellence with impact, and that's what's going to push you up and above to actually stand out and get chosen. Don'ts. Don't forget to communicate the impact with the relatable contribution. So if I said, for example, that I quadrupled the revenue of the last company that I worked at, that's kind of a bold claim. And if I just say that and say that alone, I mean, yeah, that's impressive, but that's not really going to be substantive. It's not going to substantiate what I actually did at the company. So it's really important that you guys give your impact, but then you also give it with a relatable contribution. So how did I quadruple the revenue of my company within 2 years? I did it by creating a new sales script that reduced the non-billable hours of call time from 45 minutes to 5 minutes, and I was able to close a lot more clients by doing that. I mean, it's a very long drawn out way, but I would take that concept and narrow it down and say it more eloquently if I'm putting it on paper. Second, don't avoid sharing your impact because you don't want to brag. It's not bragging if it's fact. Be proud of what you've done. So for the example that I just gave you about quadrupling the revenue, like, yeah, that's a big thing. That's cool and everything. But a lot of times people will say, well, can I really say that? I mean, there were all these other factors that went into it. If you can draw the connection between the 2 dots or multiple dots of what you did and how that directly impacted the company's growth or a department's growth or the quality of a client's campaign, I mean, if you can directly connect those, it's not bragging, it's just fact. And you should be proud of what you've done, and you should tell people. Because if you don't tell them, they're not going to know. So your homework is to write a list of official and unofficial jobs, positions, gigs you've had. I mean, anything that you've done, any organization you were a part of, even if it's something like Toastmasters, that's still something where you're contributing a skill. So a contribution made anywhere is still a contribution. Don't discount those. Then I want you to write down every contribution and impact for each of those job positions and gigs. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but if you do it once, you don't have to do it again. And I want you to go through and list everything that you've done for each of those positions in terms of contributions, and then add that little bit of what you did that was above and beyond, or what you did that was better or different, and the impact that that created for the particular organization, company, person, whatever it is you're dealing with. Then I want you to practice talking about what you've done, leading with the impact. So a lot of times people will forget the impact because they start with what they did. But if you lead with the impact, it's easy to remember and it catches the person's attention right away. If you're passing in conversation, you only have that split second to really grab somebody's attention. So for example, saying something like, I led a 3-month backlog project to completion within 1 month by developing a new communication method that increased cross-functional efficiency. And I can do that for you too. It's that leading the impact and the results that you want to present that's going to convince them that you can do the same for their company. And that's all. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can find me at about.me/Melissa-Brown. All of my social media and everything else related to who I am online can be found there. And if you guys don't have an about.me page, you should get one to centralize your online presence. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. You gotta throw in the shameless plug at the end. Perfect.
Any questions?
Yeah, let's take it to question and answer. Thank you, Melissa. That was awesome. It's almost like you've done this before. You're like a really good presenter when it comes to
almost
to this and everything I've seen you present. Anybody got any questions specifically for Melissa? And like I said before, you know, like it can be about this iron method. It can be about I don't know, like anything related to like this, how she started her sort of side hustle career coach thing. Because I kind of got to witness a lot of that, and it was very interesting to me. Because she was doing it throughout remote year, helping a lot of our Cousteaus. Yeah, we'll give some awkward silence here and see if there's any questions. We got a question. What if what you do can't be quantified? Let's say you're an artist. I haven't felt like my job produces quantifiable results. I feel this too because I used to work with kids and stuff, and it's like, how do you quantify like I changed a kid's life? So sure, I made something look better, but how do you quantify that? Or do I need to find other things to quantify, like teaching the team new tools to make them more productive? It's a great question. So yeah, how do you quantify things that feel a little hard to quantify?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you can't quantify it, you'd want to qualify it. So not everything that you do is going to be related to numbers, of course. So related to your art, for example, what is it about your art that makes it better? And when you think about the result that you produce with your art, what is it that makes maybe more people look at it, maybe more people buy it? What's the impact that you're creating with your art that makes it stand out from other people? Why should I choose your art over someone else's art? And so if you think of, do you sell art? This is so weird that I can't like answer the question or see the question or interact.
You see the chat box? Are you in there, Jason? I make art for games. Huh. Interesting.
Art for games. Okay.
Yeah. So it works out.
So is that something that is being sold?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So then that's one way that you can quantify it. How much more have you sold, or how much of your art have you been able to sell versus how much of your art is not sold from the past? Or how many gigs have you gotten where that art went off to create XYZ impact for whoever is using it? So there are different ways, and if you want to ping me later, I can actually workshop with you and come up with ways to make that a little bit more tangible. Because art, yeah, it totally is a subjective thing, but the impact that it creates in the world is something that can be more tangible. It can be qualified.
Awesome. So yeah, find Melissa on Slack or at about.me/Melissa Brown. Cool. Thanks for the question, Jason. Any other questions out there in Zoom land? I have a question. How many people have you worked with like your career coach sort of career coaching thing starting up for you? Like, I know it's been kind of a more recent thing and it's always sort of been like a side thing, not your main professional pursuit, but like where are you at and how long have you been doing that? I think in the remote year nation, there's a lot of people that have like either considered coaching or career coaching or life coaching and that type of thing. So I think that people might find that interesting.
Well, since I started remote year and since I've been officially named a career coach when I was hired by the Muse, I think I've helped like somewhere in the 30s via clients that were brought in by the Muse, as well as there's another platform called Mentorment that I was on, as well as independent clients from referrals that I've gotten. And so just in the past year, it's been about 30 people, ranging anywhere from just a quick like resume, revamp to actually working on diving deep into what your value actually is. Because a lot of communicating your quality or what makes you better or what makes you different is about understanding what your natural strengths are and understanding what that unique ability that you bring to the table is. So I do a lot of work like that with people. And yeah, it's been about in the 30s for the past year.
Awesome. And I imagine too, like a lot of that too is just getting people to feel comfortable sort of talking about themselves. I know like a lot of people struggle with just being able to be comfortable saying like what you're good at and what you can bring to the table type of thing.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from the fact that it is a natural strength that usually contributes to the huge impact that you create. And so it doesn't feel like it's hard work all the time because it's something that comes easier to you because it's your natural ability. And so that's actually something that you really want to pay attention to is like, what is it that you find you're constantly contributing to in what way? And see if that's one of your natural abilities and something that you've always kind of been good at. And then tie that to the impact so that you can actually present something that's very tangible. It doesn't become bragging. Yeah. It's only bragging if whatever you say is not backed up by what you actually did.
For sure. We have another question actually from Kimberly Koenig. When you're courting a new
hi, Kim.
Oh, hi, Kim. She asks, when you're courting a new client, how do you handle follow-ups before they've actually committed to working with you? So like basically how long do you wait for a follow-up? Mm-hmm. And do you reiterate your value again when following up, or do you kind of let that sit where it was if you did a good job of that the first time?
So I don't actually have a structured approach to this because my philosophy is that if a person doesn't want to be helped, I can't help them. So usually, I don't think I've ever had a person that I've chased after. Maybe one follow-up 3 days later, 2 or 3 days later, depending on how the first conversation went. But in terms of like following up and reiterating your value, if it wasn't conveyed in the first, wait, are you talking about from the perspective of me coaching people or trying to get a gig or a client?
Trying to get a gig or a client, I think.
Oh, okay. So then with that, I would usually I'd write the initial email or make the initial contact. And then I would follow up with them the day after, depending on, what kind of opportunity it is. And then I would wait 2 days and follow up again. And then I would wait like 5 or 6 days and follow up again. And depending on how badly you really want it, you have to get kind of creative. So one example of a guy from our group that I helped get an interview with the head editor with the company that he's been wanting to work for like 6 months. I showed him how he could use LinkedIn to kind of semi-stalk people, but you reach out to people on LinkedIn because you can kind of learn more about them and have more touch points to relate to them. And you send them a message on LinkedIn following up. So if it's a particular company you're going for, then you find multiple people within that company. And you'd want to present your message in a way that you're contributing value or you're giving them something instead of asking them for something. Because if you're coming into the situation with the mentality of, I'm going to give you something, I'm going to give you value first, then people are much more likely to want to help you in return. It boils down to that human to human interaction of, give to get kind of thing.
Awesome. Amazing. And in the interest of keeping these in half an hour, I think we're going to end it there. And you're cool with people getting in touch with you on Slack, Melissa?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Ping me, contact me via, whatever you see on the screen. However you'd like, I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks again for the talk. And everybody else out there listening, join the Knowledge Drop Slack channel if you haven't done that yet, and you can find the archive on that where the video from this will be posted. So if you have any friends or people around the world that you think might benefit from learning about the iron method and from Melissa's wisdom, feel free to share that video with them. It'll be on the Remote Year YouTube channel. So thanks again, everybody. Have a lovely Wednesday, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, look at all these nice comments. Thanks, everybody.